I'm 78 years old now. I sit in this house, and most days the loudest thing I hear is the hum of the refrigerator or the clock ticking on the mantle. It's funny, when I was younger I spent so much money and so much effort trying to make sure I had a house like this. High ceilings, a view of the valley, a quiet street. Now that I have all the quiet I ever asked for, I realize I'd give every square foot of it just to hear the chaos of a Tuesday night 30 years ago. I worked in corporate logistics for 42 years. I was good at it. I was the man people called when things were falling apart, the one who could find efficiency where others saw a mess. I took a lot of pride in that. I remember the feeling of walking into a boardroom in my late 30s and early 40s. The sharp suit, the leather portfolio, the way the room would go a little bit silent when I started to speak. It felt like power. It felt like I was building a kingdom. I told myself I was doing it for Martha and the kids. I told myself that every late night, every missed dinner, and every flight to Chicago or London was a brick in the foundation of their future. But looking back from this chair, I see things differently. I see that I wasn't building a kingdom for them. I was building a monument to my own ego, and I was using their time to pay for it. My 40s are a blur of fluorescent lights and hotel room coffee. I remember the adrenaline of the big win. I remember the promotions, the titles changing from manager to director to vice president. Each one felt like a mountain peak, but the strange thing about those peaks is that once you stand on them, you just start looking for the next one. You never actually stop to enjoy the view. Meanwhile, Martha was here, in this house. She never complained much. That was the trap I fell into. Because she didn't scream or demand I stay home, I assumed everything was fine. I'd come home at 9 or 10 at night, and she'd have a plate saved for me. I'd eat it in front of the television, barely saying a word because I was exhausted from the heavy lifting I'd been doing all day. I thought my exhaustion was a badge of honor. I thought providing the paycheck was the same thing as providing a life. I remember one night specifically, I must have been 44. I'd just closed a deal that had been 6 months in the making. I came through the door feeling like a conqueror. Martha was sitting in the living room with a book, but she wasn't reading. She was just staring at the wall. I started telling her about the bonus, about how this meant we could finally do the kitchen remodel she'd mentioned. She just looked at me, not with anger, but with a kind of exhausted pity, and said, "That's nice, Arthur. I'm going to bed." I was offended. I thought she was being ungrateful. I didn't realize that she didn't want a new kitchen. She wanted a husband who knew what her favorite book was that year. She wanted someone to notice that she'd cut her hair, or that she was struggling with her mother's failing health. I was so busy managing global supply chains that I didn't even notice the woman 5 feet away from me was fading away. We stayed together, of course. We had a good marriage by most people's standards. But by the time I retired at 68, we had become like two people living in a hotel who happened to share a breakfast table. I had spent so many years being VP Arthur that I didn't know how to just be Arthur. And she had spent so many years learning how to be happy without me that when I finally showed up, there wasn't much room left for me in her world. She passed away 4 years ago. Cancer. It went fast, and for that I'm grateful. But those last few months in the hospital, those were the hardest. Not just because she was sick, but because of the silence. We'd sit there and I'd realize I didn't have any stories to tell her that weren't about work. I didn't have any shared memories of the middle years because I wasn't there for them. I was in a boardroom, I was on a conference call, I was needed by people who didn't even remember my name 2 weeks after I retired. One afternoon she looked at me, she was very thin by then, and she whispered, "I missed you, Arthur. Even when you were home, I missed you." That's a heavy thing to carry into your 80s. You think you have time. That's the great lie of the corporate world. They tell you to grind now so you can play later. But later isn't a guarantee, and even if you get to later, you might find that you've lost the ability to play, or worse, you've lost the people you wanted to play with. I see the young men now in their 30s and 40s staring at their phones during their kids' soccer games or taking calls during dinner. I want to go up to them and shake them. I want to tell them the company will survive without you. The project will get done, but your wife is lonely right now. Your children are growing up right now. And those years, they don't come back. There is no refund for time. You can't exchange your pension for one more Saturday in 1995. I'm 78 years old. I have a very comfortable life. My bank account is full. My house is beautiful. And I would trade every single cent of it to go back to my 45th birthday and actually stay for the cake, to put the phone in the drawer and look at my wife and really hear her. If you're still in the middle of it, if you're still chasing that next title, just ask yourself, what is it costing you? And are you sure the person paying the price is okay with the deal? Because the silence in this big house, it's very expensive, and I'm still paying for it every single day.